Hello everybody and welcome back to the TripleJump podcast. It's a video game podcast. My name is Ben.
My name is Peter.
And my name is Ashton.
Good morning.
Good
Hello.
morning.
How are we?
Good.
Very well.
Are you excited about next week?
Yeah. Remember last week when we said in a couple of weeks we're doing a thing and then didn't say what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah.
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 Well, anyway,
What
we
is
can
it?
tell you what it is now.
Oh.
We're going to be on CBBC for
Huh?
reals. You know when we did SMTJ like last year
Just a practice run.
as like a practice run? Well, they
saw that.
didn't see that, but they were like,
God.
hey, want to come be on our actual Saturday morning show?
Yeah.
So next Saturday at 9 a.m. GMT on the CBBC channel, live,
And an iPlayer.
in front of children and the world.
the world. We will be on the show. It's
Yeah.
called Mashup, right?
Yeah. Saturday mashup.
Saturday Mashup.
Peter's a big fan. He's watched several episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched one for research purposes and then I was like, hey, this is great.
Yeah.
You know
Watch
what?
more.
Yeah.
And it's not just like, there'll be a little VT of like a minute long about gaming YouTubers and then, that's it. No, it's a 2-hour show.
And we're going to be on it the whole time.
We are their guests.
Yeah. There's
Um,
games,
We get to play
prizes,
games,
there's a
gunging.
gunging.
It may not be us, but hopefully it sort of, I kind
What
of
a-
hope it
what
will
a
be.
Will
badge
it
of
be
honor
us
to be
or it'll be
banned.
3 actual children? So I'm kind of hoping it's us so the children
Yeah.
don't have to
So
go
we'll be
back.
documenting the whole thing on our socials next Saturday. So stay tuned for that. We will be telling you all about what goes on, and in the podcast next week as well. I imagine we'll. Oh no, we won't. It won't have happened yet, will it?
No.
Because
No.
we recorded
It
on
will-
Thursday.
around the
It
same
will have
time.
just gone out like as the show finishes next week.
Right.
So
So CBBC 9 a.m. Saturday morning
Saturday
mashup.
morning on the 7th of November.
Yes,
I was
that's
like,
the
what
month.
month is it?
Yeah.
I don't know how easy it will be to access internationally.
We will
But-
post clips. I'm
Yeah, we'll
sure.
post clips for sure. And I think they will post clips on their socials, which you will be able to access internationally, I'm sure.
So that's exciting, isn't it?
Yep.
So very exciting.
Yeah.
Peter, do you have like an ad read, because we need to like the lights? It's flickering.
Yeah.
That's the last bulb. Do you? Can you?
I do
Maybe?
have an ad read. I'm a bit disappointed, really, because we had a really good ad, a very real sponsor actually send in a really good one. And you know what? I'm going to just say it really quickly, but
Go
we've
on.
got an even better sponsor, so these guys aren't as important.
Oh, okay.
But by the way, also coming, Alan Wake. He's a really serious guy.
Yeah.
It's all quite depressing and,
Yeah.
and moody.
Yeah.
There's a new DLC coming out where it's actually just like a light-hearted sitcom about his family just chilling out in their house. And,
Okay.
the japes they get into,
Yeah.
those wakes. Alan Wake 2, The Wake House DLC is coming.
The Wake House.
The
Right.
Wake House.
Right, and that's where they all hang out and get
Yeah,
into
Yeah,
hijinks.
it's where Alan Wake and all the wakes, they're in the
Yeah.
Wake House.
Right.
Cool.
That's good.
But that's not your sponsor.
It's not real and it's not the sponsor.
Oh.
But what is actually real, this is real, is that we have a new channel, sort of.
Yes.
Yes.
All of the future episodes of the podcast will now be going out on their own channel, which at the moment we think we won't be able to get the custom URL because it's a brand new channel. We'll later add one when we can. But for the time being, you can go to triplej.mup/podcast, and that will simply redirect you to the YouTube channel. But also, hopefully, if you just search for Triple Jump Pods, we might be in the search results.
Yes,
we
that's
hope.
the name of the channel to
Yeah.
match Triple Jump
Fingers crossed.
VODs. So go over there. This will be the final episode on the main channel. The audio feed will be untouched. If you're listening on the audio version, that's fine. The content of the podcast will also be untouched. It's just a case of moving it off the main channel. And in that vein, and this is part of the reason as well, we're hoping to give the flippant, Al Gore rhythms that we talk about, or Al Gore's rhythms, we talk about it all the time. It's been giving us a bit of a rough hand lately.
Yeah.
A
We're
little bit.
hoping to give him a bit of a kick up the backside. This is part of that process by moving the podcast onto its own channel, much like we did with the VODs back in the day as well, if you're old and you remember that, like Peter and I do. But it also means that next week we will be taking a week-long break from posting content on the main channel. So there'll be no uploads next week. However, do not worry, because the podcast will still be going out on its own channel. We'll still be live streaming all week, and Worst Games Ever for patrons will still be going out on the Friday it's meant to be going out. So people who need the stuff that they need to have, that'll still be happening. But this week-long break will hopefully, when we return from it, wake Al up from his little slumber and help us along our way.
And that episode of Worst Games Ever that is going out to patrons, we're not saying it's Patreon exclusive this week. It's just it will be going out maybe the week later.
Yeah,
we think.
A week after.
So you'll still get it, but patrons will get it when it's due.
Yes, precisely. So thank you for your support. TripleJump.up/podcast. We're going to be shouting about it everywhere and pinning it in comments, and there'll be a link below and everything for you to go and subscribe to the new podcast channel. If you enjoy watching us do this podcast rather than listening, then please go over there, give it a subscribe, and you'll still get the podcast every single week. Thank you so much.
Some other stuff's happening as well. A bit more information to throw at you right now, but just the ones you already know about. SMTJ is 23rd of November if you want to get involved.
So just to clarify,
/SMTJ.
We're doing the CBBC
thing on the 7th, and then 2 weeks later we're doing our version
our own
of
one.
it.
So the CBBC one is a practice
for our one.
For the much better professional
2 weeks
one
later
with the wider
on the
audience
23rd
pool.
of November. Also, the tap appeal is still open. It's open until the 18th of November. Send some stuff if you like.
Yeah.
We would love to open it.
We'd love to.
And then also this came out this week. Oh my God, so much is happening this week. Honestly, it's been a crazy week.
It has been a mad week.
It's the Weirdest Games Ever week. So it's the Halloween episode. We played Deadly Premonition. That will be the final video out before our week-long hiatus. So that's coming out on Sunday. It's already out on Patreon if you want to watch it. And last thing, I promise. We did a news video this week.
What?
We did a news video. We're doing news now. Not next week, but after that, we'll be doing news. Hopefully nothing huge happens next week. That would be sod's law.
It would be, wouldn't it?
That like the Switch 2 gets announced on Wednesday. But we will be doing not daily. We're not doing them daily. Probably maybe 3 times a week if we can find the news. So yeah. Check those out when they come out. There'll be a mix of the 3 of us in every episode. So,
and it'll be normal news, not stinky peculiar news.
Somebody did a comment being like, I thought this was the stinky peculiar news. And I was like, shut up. But yeah, I think that's everything we have to tell you about.
Yeah. So I'm just going to run down it one more time very quickly, bullet point by bullet point. CBBC, next Saturday at 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
We're taking a week off posting content on the channel. However, the podcast will still go out on its own channel, TripleJump.up/podcast. Worst Games Ever will still go out for patrons next week.
As will Rules Boss.
But then Worst Games Ever will go out on the main channel the week after. So it's slightly delayed so we can give it a bit of breathing room on the channel.
New news video. Weirdest Games Ever week. SMTJ is the 23rd of November. Tat Appeals on the 8th of November. Are you caught up? Do you know what's going on? We don't. Okay?
Okay.
All right?
I think we've done an excellent job of trying summarizing a great deal of information there. All the information is available on all of our socials and so on. And if you listen to each thing we just said and then pause it and then make a note, then you'll be fine.
Yeah,
update your calendars. It'll be fine.
But we'll see you on the new podcast channel next week.
Yes,
it's time to get into the actual podcast.
It is. Yeah, unless you wanted to say we've got a shop, TripleJumpShop.com.
We do actually have
There's
a shop.
simply they can't handle any
more.
I won't give you
any
any more
information.
You know it all. Watch a different episode intro if you want to know the usuals.
Skip.
Big Money Bobby Vegas has asked question 1.
Where?
And he or she says, "Hi BAP, Dragon Age Veilguard releases this week and is already garnering critical acclaim, sitting at 84 on Metacritic at time of writing. However, with depressing predictability, the Dude Bro community is up in arms about, quote, enforced wokeness, with the game including story arcs allowing the main character to either be or become transgender, along with a cast of characters that aren't exclusively heterosexual. The horror!" It says, "For me, a good game is a good game, and if said game is an inclusive one, then all the better for it. But a large section, or at least a vocal section, of the market clearly has an issue with how diversity is being pitched. Are game companies lacking nuance in presenting diverse themes and characters, or do gamers simply need to grow up? Or both? Yours from the billiard room, BMBV." Me.
Thanks, Bobby Vegas.
Thank you very much.
Got a little bit of an excerpt here from a PC Gamer article about this, who the writer of it is trying to clarify that things aren't as terrible as they might seem to people who think that things like this are terrible.
Right.
The major thing I'd like to clear up here is that contrary to some rumors about these pronoun options or the top scar customization option irreversibly making your character transgender, these things don't impact your character's identity at all beyond, naturally, the words that characters use to refer to them. Instead, it's all handled in a very early game cutscene. When Rook's getting set up in their digs for the first time, they'll interact with a hand mirror. During this dialogue, you get one of several options, some of which lock in your character's trans or non-binary identity, regardless of the options you picked at character creation. These are clearly and coherently signposted on the wheel, so there's no danger, they say, of selecting one by accident.
And that's it.
So you pick your my understanding is you pick pronouns separately to appearance, as other games have handled it in the past already. This isn't something new. And I think, how can you have... I just don't understand how you can have a problem with the option being placed there. If you are perhaps an ignorant or bigoted person who has a problem with transgender people or different sexualities or whatever, that's a problem you need to work on. But that aside, you don't have to include it in your character. And yeah, you might encounter characters in the game who are, homosexual or bisexual
Much
or whatever.
like you might encounter human beings in your life that are not the same as you.
So if you can't even cope with it in a video game, I think you have a different sort of problem you need to deal with before you even worry about the gaming world you're inhabiting. Maybe look at the way you're handling... I don't know why I feel like I'm preaching to anyone listening who might feel that way, and I think
most people listening are
many people
reasonable.
in our audience who are like that. But those people who we're talking about here need to perhaps look inward, I think, rather than look at game developers.
I like the question, are game companies lacking nuance in presenting diverse themes and characters? Because I can sort of see where people might be coming from if they are like, it's being pushed down our throats. But I would also like to stress that that's not how I feel, even a little bit. I can see that, like, sometimes people feel like not everything has to have something in it. But I also feel like it doesn't harm the experience to have this. And I feel like Dragon Age itself does handle it with some nuance, in the sense of, like, you are entirely able to choose your own situation, and you can have top scars if you want to, but also, like, you don't have to. It's not like really easy to just be like, I'm accidentally transgender now. It's a decision that you have to make, that it is, once again, clearly signposted. But I think the thing is, the people who are looking to get mad about these things will get mad about these things and will make a big deal about it. Like, it was like that video from a little while ago where that man had a meltdown about pronouns being in a game. Like, please choose your pronouns. He, him, she, her, they, them.
Starfield, I think.
Starfield had an absolute meltdown about it. Like, it doesn't affect these people. So it doesn't matter how nuanced or how subtle you are. We unfortunately live in a time of great division between people who have an ounce of humanity where they will accept other people for being who they are and not... It doesn't affect them, so they don't mind them existing. And then you have the people like these people who get annoyed about it, who are simply angry at these people for even existing and the ideas for even being a part of our discussion. So, like, they're always going to be mad about it. It doesn't matter how nuanced you are. You could have one gay character in the entirety of Dragon Age: The Veilguard, and people will still be annoyed about it and still be crying DEI wokeness. Like, it's not gonna affect it how subtle it is. They want the main character to look like them, act like them. They want no one in the world to be different than what they see as the correct way of living. And it doesn't matter how subtle you are, they still will find a way to be annoyed about it. So I feel like developers should do whatever the hell they want and put in as much things as they want to put in there, as long as it doesn't take away from the story, just to piss them off.
Well, and also you make the point that, those people, maybe why they're getting angry is because they want everyone to look like them and be like them. Well, maybe they also have to think that, all right, there are other, it's a fact of life, whether they like it or not, that there are people out there who are trans and might have top scars or use different pronouns. And those people probably also want the ability to make their character look like them and be like them. So, you know, if you can empathize from that point of view, that it's nice to be able to at least create yourself in a game, you know, even if you leave out the fact that other characters might have certain traits and things, you know, why shouldn't it be included as an option? You know?
I saw a tweet this week about this kind of conversation, which was that 10 years ago, all the people who were annoyed that people were complaining that their characters didn't look like them were like, well, why don't you go and make a game where you look like the main character? And now they've done that, and people are like, hey,
not like that.
Not like that.
I didn't mean it.
I didn't mean do that.
So, I mean, obviously this argument, it's exhausting and stupid, but let's, engaging with the topic and answering the question posed by BMBV. As with all things in all media, there's like a tact to representation. It obviously should never be there just for the sake of it, because that can have negative impact on the message of whatever it is that you're trying to create.
Yeah.
However, it does feel like every time that we could ever possibly have a proper conversation about what that might be, there is just a very vocal group of people who aren't arguing for what is an appropriate amount of inclusivity, which is a very difficult thing to talk about anyway.
Yeah.
But just as you guys have said, don't want it at all.
Yeah.
They're not interested in
They don't want it to
anything
be a woman.
that goes outside of any kind of binary or heteronormative thing, or even just a woman.
Yeah.
You're right. And
or even the way that a woman looks, if a woman is there. So, like, all I've seen of the Tomb Raider animation, all the discourse about that is that there's something up with her chin.
She looks too
or her
manly.
body,
This
or
woman who spends all of her
Not
time
seen-
climbing ropes and doing exercise is too muscly, and that makes her a man.
I've not seen any discussion about the story or the music or the animation. It's just, look at her bone structure. It's bad.
it is an exhausting topic of conversation.
Yeah.
Representation is extremely important, obviously, especially in RPGs. I think it's astonishing and quite frankly points out how ludicrous these people are, that they're complaining about a BioWare RPG of all things, which has famously always been incredibly inclusive, always had, gay relationships and same-sex relationships in them as an option.
The thing that annoys me is that, like, when Mass Effect came out, I feel like we were a much more accepting society, and we have gone back in time to how it was
Or those
30
people have
years
gotten louder.
ago.
I think those people have gotten louder and
But I
they've
also
been
do
enabled
feel like,
by other people.
Yeah, we've gone back. Like, you look at like old TV shows, and it's like, yeah, it had a trans character in EastEnders back in like 2002, and everyone was fine with it. But you put one in now, and people get angry. Like, it's definitely
It's the new boogeyman, and you know, well, unfortunately, it's just how it's always been in society, isn't it? It will move on to the next marginalized group eventually, and it's an awful cycle that sadly keeps repeating. One example I actually wanted to give, obviously I'm not a member of the LGBTQIA community. I can't speak for actually how quote unquote well the character was portrayed, but having just played through Life is Strange, there's a trans character in there who I think is just so perfectly presented, because them being trans has absolutely nothing to do with anything in the game. They are a flawed person with ambitions. The fact that they are trans is just, it's not even brought up in passing. It's like it's sort of hinted at, but it's just completely irrelevant. She's just a character in the game who happens to be trans. And I just think that that's a really fantastic example of how to do that. So I suppose on the one hand, to answer the question, there is a quote unquote right way to do it. But on the other, there will always be a vocal group of people who, regardless, will just be furious, and you simply cannot cater to them, because they are not willing to have a debate. It's their way or no way.
And you also shouldn't cater to them.
No, you should.
You should let them be
But
angry until they burn themselves out.
What I mean is there's no middle ground.
No.
There's no conversation to be had, because theirs is their way or no way, and that's unfortunate, but that's just how it is. Go create the gayest characters you possibly can.
Yeah.
And be gay and do crime.
Make
or whatever
them
it is.
kiss.
Yeah. Make them kiss.
Do kisses
Big
and stuff.
Time.
Yeah, wonderful.
Well, in honor of this being our last podcast on the main channel, I thought we could try something new, because once it's gone, they can't do anything about it. Yeah. It's a segment that I think we should call What We Playin.
Okay.
It's What We Play in time. Time to talk about the games what we have been playing. Peter Austin.
Yep.
What have you been playing?
Played a few things this week. A little bit of well, not everything. That would take
That's
that would take
mental.
an infinite
You're a
amount of
liar.
time.
Every game
I played
ever.
a little bit of
Liar.
every game.
Liar.
But I've had a smorgasbord of but small helpings. So I have jumped into Astrobot and played the 2 time trial levels, which I hadn't got around to doing yet. Had a good time, but was a bit confused and disappointed. I didn't realize they were doing a staggered release of these. I thought they were just saying, here they all are. But 2 of them are out, or were out at, when I've been playing it. And I think the next one is out very soon.
Yeah,
maybe
they kind
even
of like every
today,
few
or-
weeks. Or,
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a bit strange they're doing a staggered release. But anyway, I had a good time jumping back into that game. And I almost just started a whole new campaign of it. But I thought, no, I've got other things to play. Such as Parcel Core, the game that we're all in.
Yeah.
Available now.
Indeed. I hadn't yet got round to playing that, even though we were very kindly provided with some codes. Technically, #ad maybe, I
Sort
suppose.
of.
Yeah.
It's
sort
also
of.
worth clarifying that we are not benefiting from the sales of this game at all.
No.
We have no financial involvement in the game's success. So
No, indeed.
we're just in it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And no
We're
money
just
is
proud
No-
to be in it.
no money has changed hands for us to talk about the game. We were
No.
paid for some voice work and we're not obliged to talk about it, but I am just talking about it because I played it. I had a nice time. I saw Ben Potter. I heard me because I knew where I was. And then I sent a message to Ashton saying, where are you? And she told me. So,
Yeah.
but I've not yet found Ben's in-game character. But I had a nice time with that and I'll stream it, I think, next week on my next stream. I have also played and finished Nico Dorico, the mongoose game. I had a good time with that.
Furry boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my 2 new crushes. By virtue of the fact that they are animals.
New crush unlocked.
Indeed.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And I had a good time with it. I kind of feel like that over time I noticed more and more that it's not a AAA production. It's not from a huge studio, and so you do start to see some of the kind of the cracks in the armor. But overall, it was still a nice time, and I'm probably going to stream that as well. And then, was there something else? No, that's it. That's all. Those are the 3 things. And like way back, just after the last podcast recording, I played a tiny bit more Star Wars Outlaws, but I've not really played that for almost a week now. So, yes, that's what I've been playing.
Lovely. I've also played a few things this week. I played some more Mario Party. I was home visiting my family this weekend, so I played some Mario Party with my sister. I lost again.
Oh no!
I lose every single time. I always
You're
come
rubbish
fourth.
at this game, man.
I feel like something in the game does not want me to win. I don't know what I've done to deserve this, but it's upset with me all the time. Also, I've played some Jackbox, played some Trivia Murder Party 2, and I played the new Jackbox game, which is called Survey Scramble, which I think is actually very good and a lot of fun.
I read the synopsis. Who have they surveyed? Is it Americorns
They must have surveyed some people beforehand, but they also, when you boot up the game, while you're waiting to join a lobby, they ask you a bunch of questions.
So it's an international
So
thing.
you're putting stuff in. So
Okay.
there's like some of them have like 70 answers. So there's various game modes. There's like a list one where you're trying to get like as close to the top as possible. And then it'll be like, now try and get as close to the bottom as possible. Like, what do you think is the least answered answer on
So
the
it's
list?
like that one Jackbox game that I really like and everyone bloody hates, the one where you have to get in the percentile of...
Yeah, sort of.
I can't remember which... It's like
I
a
can't
secret
remember what it's
agent
called,
themed
yeah.
one, isn't it? Yeah.
But yeah, sort of like that. But then
Okay.
there's that mode. Then there's a mode where you've got like a grid of 9 squares and you're in teams and you're all trying to get 3 in a row, like noughts and crosses, but they're all like different like points in the list that you're trying to get into.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be like the 1, 2, 3 answer, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, that kind of thing. And you want to try and get the specifics to get a line, and you're all kind of working as a team, and that's really good fun. But some of the answers have like 60 possible things, and some of them have like 520. So there's like loads of answers, and some of them are really random. Basically, whenever we'd answer a question, someone would put the word gun in because it would normally always be there. So it would be like, what do you wish you had in your bedside table? gun is like up there with like a bunch of other
stuff.
stuff.
So it is US then.
There is US stuff, but there is also like some kind like very generic answers as well. But that is actually very good fun, and I would recommend playing that.
I'd like to give it a go. Jackbox can they've made a lot of strides in recent years, but it can live and die based on how much US-centric stuff is in there.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is Trivia Murder Party, and
you can turn US questions off.
Not in the original one.
Not in the original one.
Which is what I was playing recently, and it's the luck of the draw in terms of which questions you get served. But it just so happened that particular game, it felt like 90% of the questions none of us had never heard of anything that they were talking about. It wasn't even a case of who is this person. It was like, I don't understand so many words in this question.
When you like have a game that's like so US centric, because the rest of the world do not care about the US like specifics about them at all and know nothing about them, and then like you have questions about the rest of the world, like, oh, yeah, I know what happens in Spain on this. Like, I can answer a question about Spain. I don't know anything about the US baseball.
I don't know about these. Yeah,
they've got very specific cultural things that we just have no idea about.
And then you have to factor it into when you're playing something like Drawful or something where it gives you, you're trying to maybe give an American an answer that looks like it was written by an American
to try and fool everyone else.
So spell colour with no U, or that's that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes this can be as simple as no capitalization as well in your sentence. It's fun.
But yeah, Survey Scramble was good fun, and I would recommend that as a pack. I don't know how much it costs actually, but it's like I think it's got like 5 or 6 different modes, and you can play it as like a playlist, so it'll just go through a bunch of them. And like there is one that's a bit of a dud where you're trying to play like kind of Pong with each other and try and get the thing to move up and down, but because it's such a wide spectrum, you often find yourself either like all the way down one end or all the way down one end. It's kind of hard to like hit the middle ones.
There's always a dud.
Yeah,
in every
there's
pack.
got to be a dud. I played some Black Ops 6, which we'll talk about in a moment. But the other thing I've played is Star Wars Outlaws. I am so close to finishing this game. I just keep faffing around. Like I'm now at the point where I'm just mopping everything up before I go and do the final mission, but I just keep faffing and spending so much time on Tatooine. Like I want the Hutts to like me so I can get into Jabba's palace to do like the final side quest that I have on my map, but I need to do all this other Hutt stuff because they didn't like me because I kept messing things up. So I am like so close to it being finished, and I'm hopeful that this time next week I will have finished that game. I really have been enjoying it, and like I'm only doing all the other stuff because I've been enjoying like doing the bits and pieces and discovering the random missions that you can kind of completely ignore. Like if you hear someone very loudly going, the Hutts are so annoying, I wish someone would do something about it. It's like, well, I could go and talk to you and get another mission, or I could ignore you, but unfortunately I'm nosy, so I will be going to talk to them and getting another mission. But yeah, I really like that game. It's really good fun, and I'm excited to finally finish it.
Nice.
So that's what I've played this week.
I finished off the Metaphor Refantasio demo finally.
You're going to get the full game?
Eventually. I wasn't a huge fan of it initially. As I said last week, a lot of things to learn, a lot of names for things that were sort of being thrown at me a million miles an hour. I like the combat. You can see the Persona DNA is so apparent the more of it I played. I actually preferred it, I think, during the opening section where it was a lot more linear, where I didn't have as much choice in where I needed to go. It was like, you're at this dungeon now, you need to get through this dungeon.
Right.
And yeah, I was playing it on like the normal difficulty as well. And then it brings you back to like, I think the story setup and the premise is very interesting as well, especially with the whole metaphor aspect and like how it potentially ties into, like for example, the baddies are called humans, but they're like these big horrifying monsters. So you've got all these fantasy races, and then they're like, oh, do you see the creatures are on the march again? We need to stop them. They're called humans, and they usually have like a person's face. Then they're like a giant horrible chicken that spews fire or something. So I don't know what all that means, but I certainly like the premise of the story anyway, in terms of people vying for the throne and things like that. I'm intrigued by that, certainly. The demo's really long. It absolutely felt like it was going to end on several occasions. I was like 3, 4, 5 hours in. I thought, sure, this feels like a good place for it to stop. And no, it kept going. And it ends by giving you like proper freedom for the first time. You have like 3 in-game days, much like Persona. to do what you want. And you have like each thing that you do will consume time, and you have like an afternoon and an evening, and that you have 3 afternoons and evenings. You can either go in and do the actual thing it wants you to do, which is continue the story by going into a dungeon. You can go off nearby to like a much harder dungeon that I did do at some point. I got my ass kicked and was like, kind of ready for this demo to be done now. And then there are essentially social links that you can go around and do, and like listen to this person talk about their homeland, and it will level up your such and such skill or whatever, you know, like his traits that you have in Persona as well. So it's very, very, very Persona. But as soon as it opened up and gave me those 3 days, I sort of felt my brain kind of falling apart a bit, like, oh, now I have to make decisions and I don't know if I can be bothered to do this. So I went through the 3 days and I have finished the demo, and I did really enjoy it. And I think I was ready to continue playing, but then we got Call of Duty, and that's sort of been dominating my time. So by the time I eventually, if I do come back to Metaphor, having already played like 6 bloody hours of it, I won't remember a single thing about how to play it or what's happening in the story.
I was going to say, will you be able to just resume from where
you can. Your progress continues, the trophies unlock, all that kind of stuff. But I don't know if I'm going to remember what's going on. Liked it so far, though. It's an intriguing premise for sure. I just need to unlearn the toxic behaviors I have learned recently in times playing Persona games where I'm following a guide where all the guesswork is taken out for me. I've got to make my own decisions now, and I don't know if I'm going to be bothered with that. So the other thing I have played, I got the final 3 episodes of Life is Strange. Thank you very much, Square Enix, for sending us those. Didn't like it as much as the first 2 episodes. Got to say, I not only encountered a number of bug kind of things with like weird audio issues. So when someone's far away from you, obviously the sound would be muffled by a filter, and then on a number of occasions, I go up and talk to someone in these episodes and they would still sound kind of muffled, which is very peculiar, very strange. But even like as far as the story goes, I like the final episode, I don't think it was very good. It didn't have a huge payoff. None of my decisions really felt particularly significant either in the grand scheme. At the end of each episode, it tells you what decisions you've made, and they didn't really do much of anything. I felt like there were plot threads that weren't really paid off. And you also spend a lot of time in the same few environments. I thought in the first 2 episodes, I was like, okay, I'm back in the bar. That's fine. And then you're back in the bar again, and you're back in the bar again.
Right.
And because you're hopping between different timelines, you're in the bar several times, but just a slightly different version.
Right.
So it did get a little bit repetitive. The music and the presentation, I think, is still great. I still personally had a good time. I'm glad I played it. I enjoyed it, and I thoroughly recommend it to other Life is Strange fans. However, it really did drop off after the first 2 episodes for me, and that's a bit of a shame, unfortunately. Other than that, though, a whole lot of Black Ops 6. Speaking of
blobs,
should we go to the review corner?
I think we should. Well, welcome to Review Corner, everyone. It's
a bit chilly in the Review Corner.
It is a bit chilly at the moment. It'll warm up, though, the more we get talking about the sick game that we've been playing.
Sick. Wait.
We have been playing, but you more so than I have, Call of Duty Black Ops 6.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much to Activision for giving us a code for this. Therefore, per ASA guidelines, this is now technically a hashtag ad. However, there was no financial compensation in exchange for coverage. We're just talking about it because we got a code. You know the spiel. So, Call of Duty Black Ops 6. We're coming off last year's rather disastrous Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, which I talked about on the podcast earlier this year. I picked it up secondhand, got terrible review scores, and I understand why, because the campaign was basically 3 missions and then the rest was sort of like Warzone light kind of environment. It was awful. It was a real shame. This, though, is a full-bodied actual Call of Duty game. So you got zombies, you got multiplayer, and you've got an actual proper campaign with, I mean, the production values on last year's one, they're always really good, but the production values on this one, really great. Which section should we talk about first?
Well, let's start with the campaign then, as we've already brought it up, and then we can move on to zombies, which I have played as well, and then we can talk a little bit about what everyone wants to know about, the multiplayer.
Yeah, everyone loves that.
Everyone loves it.
So I'm about 80% into the campaign at the moment, and I'm a sucker for a Call of Duty campaign. It's I feel like, especially looking at the trophies and the percentage of people who've actually finished the campaign, I feel like increasingly I'm the only person who's there for the campaign. But I love single-player shooter stuff. I'm very nostalgic for it from like 10, 15 years ago. Don't really get it anymore. And this is such a return to form. This is the most fun Call of Duty campaign I've done in ages. I don't want to spoil anything, but before I got to it, and I played the mission last night, there was a mission that everyone was talking about, saying, oh my God, when you get to this mission, it's unbelievable. And it flipping is. I did it last night.
Exciting.
There's also a midpoint mission about halfway through the campaign where it basically sort of turns into an open world game. You have a little central area, like a base camp.
Right.
And I think you're in Iraq. It's during Desert Storm.
Okay.
And you get a car, and you can basically just go out and do all the optional objectives that are on the map, and fast travel back. And depending on who you do stuff for, you get kill streak rewards like airstrikes that you can call in at like the climax of the mission when you're ready to finish the mission. And in between missions, you're in your safe house, which is in, I think, Bulgaria.
Lovely.
And much like, because I'm very nostalgic as well for the first Black Ops. You know how you could break out of the chair on the main menu and wander around the room?
Yeah.
The sort of safe house you're in has secrets to solve and uncover.
Cool.
And
you just like unlocked a memory for me that I had completely forgotten about.
Because it's like a former KGB safe house. So there's like a bunker and you're trying to get into it and stuff.
Nice.
And it's honestly, I'm so impressed by this campaign, and I'm going to be a little sad when it finishes, but really fun. And it definitely dives back into the sort of the numbers, Mason. What are the, sort of sleeper agent stuff.
Yeah.
It's all set in the 90s. There's a suspected splinter faction of the CIA that you're trying to work out what's going on with, and you're having to go rogue with some other people, some returning faces in there from old Black Ops games. If you've enjoyed those, you'll have a great time with this, but you don't need to have played those to have a great time. It's still ultimately just an insane roller coaster with a decent mix of stealth missions, and Bill Clinton's in it.
Bill Clinton?
That's something that I forgot to mention, and this is not a spoiler. You just go to a campaign event and he's up there on the stage.
Wow.
You don't get to talk to him.
No.
He's just there. I was like, bloody Bill. Oh, there's Bill.
Yeah.
What's Bill doing up there? So that's the campaign. I think it's brilliant. It's
amazing.
By far the strongest part
I'm
of the
excited to
game.
give it a go.
Yeah. It's great.
And then there's zombies.
Yes.
So there's 2 maps. So I've played zombies online with you, and the game crashed. And I've also played it in split screen with MB. And one thing I will say about split screen is that the final thing that pops up after you've died or completed it, where it gives all your stats.
Yeah.
Broken in split screen.
Is it?
Halfway off the screen.
Oh no.
Just you could just see the top. Here are what you could see. But we've put the screen in the way.
You don't need that.
It's too far down.
It's not interesting.
Yeah.
You don't want to see it.
But other than that, it runs all right in split screen, and it's good fun.
One thing that I will say that I haven't utilized so much in the campaign is obviously they've got the omnidirectional sprinting now, which makes a big difference in zombies. Because when I first jumped into zombies, and you're probably seeing footage of that now, I was getting quite cross because they were hitting me a lot and I wasn't really able to get around them. And before, in earlier zombies games, you knew how to sort of kite around them, like the sort of space you had to get by them. But even when running backwards, I was like, oh, this is stupid. I'm getting hit all the time. But obviously, if you're sprinting backwards, you have more of a chance of shooting them. So that works really well. But the first map, Liberty Falls, that's just sort of a
lovely little small town.
Modern town. It's got a bowling alley. You pay your money to get through the doors. I think one of the best things that they've added in this is that you can pay half of the amount to get through a door rather than the full amount, so you can share it with the people that you're playing with. Random boxes there. They've got bubblegum perk kind of things now.
The gobble gums.
Gobble gums.
That's what they're called.
Yeah. So
you pick 5 in your loadout, and you can get 5 over the course of the mission, and then kind of activate them at different points.
Yeah.
And they're various things, one will just teleport you to somewhere else in the map.
One will mean that you never have to reload. That's what I got. You
One's
just keep
a
firing.
shield. Yeah, the one that I got that's teleport you somewhere else just teleported me 2 foot to the left.
Brilliant.
And I was like, the zombies are still here.
So helpful.
Yeah.
The perk machines are still in there though, your Juggernog and so on and so forth. Nuka-Cola, that's
I meant Juggernog. I don't know why. There's one that's like a cola thing, and I kept being I think it's like Perca-Cola or something.
Yeah,
and I
something
keep being
like that.
Oh, Nuka-Cola, yeah.
You pick
that one. That Liberty Falls map is a bit weird in terms of what you're actually supposed to do in the map, because it's investigate the town, and then you get to the church and it's you did it. And it's
it's the only one that has sort of actual objectives on screen, but they're kind of impossible to do because
the other one does have, like, I would say more of a, like, you go through the map and you uncover things by doing the mission objectives of, like, turning the power on in Terminus. But Liberty Falls is kind of like, congrats, you got to the church, and you could not explore half the map and still be, like, doing the zombies stuff forever.
That's basically all I've done. I've played with a friend who's worked out how to access the safe in Liberty Falls, and he messaged me last night and said, I now know how to quote unquote complete it.
Right.
So I might do that at some point. But you know, it's rounds based, you're surviving for as long as possible. We're no longer in the days where you're repairing windows. That doesn't happen anymore.
I miss that a bit.
You just run around and try and survive for as long as possible. You can exfil after certain amounts of time. There are bigger zombies and abomination things that chase you around at certain levels that are truly horrible.
Yeah, one has a big laser.
Yeah.
And that just kicked my ass.
Just a big fleshy monster.
Yeah,
horrible.
Absolutely.
I'd say Terminus definitely feels a bit more traditional zombies.
Yeah.
In terms of it being a spookier location and you're winding your way down.
You're in like a cliffside prison and you're trying to break someone out.
Huge science laboratory
there's like
underground.
a story that they say at the beginning that's like, oh, I let this town down and I need you to help me, I don't know, do something.
But they do talk during the game as well, but you can't hear them because you're losing your mind running away from zombies.
And also, like, you can't see the subtitles because there's so much on the screen. So it's like, okay, cool. I have no idea what you're saying. I guess I'll just kill these guys. But Terminus, I prefer the Terminus map.
Me too, personally. It's great fun though. I've really enjoyed playing it. I managed to get the ray gun out of the random box, which is one of the most powerful weapons. 2 games back to back, and because it's nice that it actually combines your multiplayer rank with your zombies rank. It's just sort of an online rank, so you can unlock weapons for your loadouts and stuff across both modes. And I killed like 2,500 zombies in one of them, which is I will never repeat that feat ever again. And I went up like 7 levels in one go, which was very satisfying to see. But I'm yet to actually successfully exfiltrate from a zombies map, because as soon as I do it, they all swarm, obviously, and I'm massively underprepared. So those are great though. Really enjoying those, and it being on Game Pass, I have friends who just have it as well, so I'm able to play with them over crossplay, and it works great.
There's
using
some more
Discord,
maps coming out for it, aren't there?
Zombies maps, probably.
They're adding a Nuketown map.
Oh, are they?
I think
for zombies?
So, yeah.
Oh, nice.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, that'll be good.
And then the last thing we want to talk about is the multiplayer.
Yes. So I have my favourite modes and my least favourite modes. I don't like domination. I'm not very good at that one. That's where you capture certain points on the map. You have to sit in them.
Yeah.
That's pretty dull to me. I quite like, I think it's called HQ. I'm not sure, but there's a location that you both have to try and capture. And then depending on which team captures it, that team, then if they die, they don't respawn until the next round. So basically you have to try and hold it for as long as possible while the other team keeps respawning.
With like search and destroy rules.
A little bit, yeah. And the longer you hold it, the more points you get. And then once they capture it back, it spawns into another place and it's first person to capture it. That's pretty fun.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed that. It's so fast. That's something that takes a lot of getting used to is Call of Duty is so fast. This game is so quick. You have to really be, and many games that I've played, it is spawn, die, spawn, die, spawn, die. And you're like, this is stupid. I have finite time. I'm getting really angry. And then you'll do one game where everything goes your way and you're like, this is brilliant. This is the best thing I've ever played. It's such a tight shooter.
Yeah.
There are some like minor quibbles that I've had with it. Like if you have a party and you're just trying to you can search for a playlist of different game modes. So just multiple rather than just one specific one. For some reason, free for all, which is, one size parties only, is automatically selected. So every time I tried to search for this playlist, it was like, no, you can't do that. So why have you defaulted to having the single player option on when I've got a party of 2 people? Anyway, so you have to go in and turn that off, but it took me a while to work that out. Obviously, you've got your battle passes and stuff. I've not gone anywhere near that, not interested in that. But as a complete package, Black Ops 6 is really, really good. And I'm so happy because this is exactly what I wanted out of the Black Ops franchise.
Yeah. It feels really fun to play. Like it feels kind of, I used to play, I think, Black Ops 1 and maybe Black Ops 2 and I always really enjoyed it, but this game just feels like, because it's so fast and it's so like fluid, it does really feel quite fun to play, which is what you want from a Call of Duty game.
Yeah. Just before we go, though, solidarity with striking workers. The QA team have walked out of Activision.
Love that
and
for them.
We stand with them.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for listening, everyone, to this review corner. Shall we go back to the main podcast?
I think we shall. It's time now for question 2.
Thanks, Ben and Ashton, for that.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. It's time now for question 2. Comes from David Cam and Ferris Wheeler. Hello, Bap. First time asker here.
Who?
It's David Cam. I think
David
Ferris
is.
Wheeler is asked a few times.
Thank you.
My question/topic of discussion is about video game preservation. The US Copyright Office recently struck down a proposed DMCA exception that would allow libraries to offer digital access to out-of-print games that can no longer be played without hunting down original hardware, citing there would be a significant risk that preserved video games would be used for recreational purposes.
No!
How dare they?
Shock horror.
Retro hardware is often very difficult, expensive, or outright impossible to find given the age of some of it. I would like to know your thoughts on this ruling and what you think of efforts to preserve and offer access to retro games that are prohibitively difficult to play. If the copyright holder isn't offering a way to play the games on modern systems and they aren't profiting from used hardware sales, what is the harm in preservation? So, for a bit of context, a 3-year, this is from Games Radar, written by Dustin Bailey. A 3-year fight to help support game preservation has come to a sad end today. The US Copyright Office has denied a request for a DMCA exception that would allow libraries to remotely share digital access to preserved video games. For the past 3 years, the Video Game History Foundation has been supporting the Software Preservation Network on a petition to allow libraries and archives to remotely share digital access of out-of-print video games in their collections, VGHF explains in its statement. Under the current anti-circumvention rules in Section 1201 of the DMCA, libraries and archives are unable to break copy protection on games in order to make them remotely accessible to researchers. Essentially, the exemption would open up the possibility of a digital library where historians and researchers could check out digital games that run through emulators. The VGHF argues that around 87% of all video games released in the US before 2010 are now out of print, and the only legal way to access those games now is through the occasionally exorbitant prices and often failing hardware that defines the retro gaming market. Still, the US Copyright Office has said no. The Register concludes that proponents that did not show that removing the single-user limitation for preserved computer programs, my God, so many words, of permitting off-premises access to video games are likely to be non-infringing, according to the final ruling. She also notes that greater risk of market harm will remove the video game exemption's premises limitation given the market for legacy video games. The ruling cites the belief the Entertainment Software Association and other industry lobby groups that there would be significant risk that preserved video games would be used for recreational purposes. We cannot, of course, entertain the notion that researchers enjoy their subjects for even a moment. More importantly, this also ignores the fact that libraries already lend out digital versions of more traditional media like books and movies to everyday people for what can only be described as recreational purposes.
Yeah.
So yeah, essentially, they have said no to this. It's always bad for you. DMCA.
Yeah.
You can't play your games. Not recreationally, anyway.
This is stupid. I'm trying to possibly understand the legal reasons for that specific wording for recreational use, because they must have known that. Duh. That's what it's
games
for.
are. So
that must fall under a specific legal definition, and that's the reason they've worded it that way.
Yeah.
But God, it's this feels like the discussion we had last week about how certain institutions, mainstream media or otherwise, are grossly out of touch with what video games are, their significance, their historical value, and quite how hard it is, as David said, to get access to them in these days. In these days. This day and age.
The annoying thing is that, I mean, they touched on it there in that excerpt that, yeah, you can rent movies and books out of a library. But also, in terms of research purposes, there are archives that have huge amounts of film and TV available for research. Someone I know is in libraries and archives in that industry, and they've recently been doing a lot of work on something called Box of Broadcasts, which is for academics and researchers, but it has something like everything that's ever gone out on 9 British TV channels like BBC and ITV and stuff in the last 10 years is all backed up and available for access for research. And there's nothing in place on that system that prevents you from just grabbing an episode of something that went out 7 years ago and watching it. And I don't think they really have a huge issue with people doing that, because if they did, they would... Well, I don't see the difference is what I'm saying here. You know, I don't see how one is okay and one isn't. I mean, maybe it's a British law versus US law thing, because we're talking about the US here, and I believe Boxer Broadcast is specifically a British thing. But it's very irritating. The one thing I can kind of see that they might be arguing, I think in the thing you just read there, Ashton, did they say something that it might affect the market, not from the publishers of these games originally, but the actual market that exists for retro hardware and retro consoles secondhand.
The market.
Yeah, well, you know, they might be trying to say that, oh well, if we make it all available in that sense, it could affect those people who sell secondhand hardware and so on. But then, is that their jurisdiction if they're more concerned with copyright rather than? You know, I don't necessarily see how that factors into the secondhand market.
I mean, reselling doesn't make the government any money. It doesn't make the publisher any money.
But are they doing it in defense of the actual people who resell?
Yeah, but even then, like, if you've got access to... Not everyone is going to know that they have access to the library where they could go and play a game that is potentially available on there. And some people want to own the games, so they will buy the games because they are going to want to own it. This doesn't make any sense.
ROMs exist and they do not negatively impact the price of the resale market.
Absolutely not. From every standpoint, it doesn't matter like kind of what way you look at it, it doesn't make any sense.
And if you limit it to academics, people with like a .edu email address or whatever it is, then you know, that's, you're not just going to have us wandering down to the library and checking out you know, N64 games. You would have to be someone who is doing some sort of media research, so even that reduces the risk even more.
It's just there's nothing about this like firm no that makes any sense other than we don't understand it and we therefore it's a no. Like it doesn't make any sense. Every time you're like, well, maybe it's because of this. There's like a million reasons why that doesn't make any sense. Oh, because they don't want people to not pay for it. Okay, well, you can get it online for free. But I just would like to do a proper channel that is like actively helps more people. Then that's fine. Like it doesn't. It honestly is one of the most baffling like things to read is the statement that they made about how it will affect the market and how they don't want people to use it for recreational purposes. It's an absolutely hilarious statement to make about something that is literally a game.
And it's out of print.
And is out of print. It is a harm to preservation and it's a bad thing, and it's terrible that places like libraries and archives are not given access to what is right now, I would say, one of the most prevalent sources of media in the world. Like it's an incredibly important piece of media, and there's so many important stories. And we argue like video games are art in some form, but also like they're
culturally
stories.
Significant.
They're culturally significant. They tell the stories of what's happening now. And there's games that are very, very important that are out of print. And I think it's important that those are preserved in a way where people can access them. And I think this is a real big shame.
Yeah, it's a baffling, indefensible decision. And it shows a gross lack of understanding about what video games are. And honestly, reeks, if it wasn't just so, it's such an ignorant ruling, I would be concerned that maybe it smells a bit like they're worried about, you know, the people who stand to lose money off this rather than the actual point of this whole thing, which is preserving stuff. Like, oh yes, but Activision, but EA, but Ubisoft. It's like that should not be your priority at all. That's not what we're here to talk about. Surely it's to preserve this stuff and to make sure that people have access to it. Hopefully they can appeal, because I think that statement can be disproven in any number of ways.
Yeah.
But I bet we could probably have a Google at the board of people who made that decision and see a lot of grey hair.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that people with grey hair don't play games, but people with grey hair who are on committees
Don't play
making
games.
decisions about the future of games and their well-being tend not to play games.
Yeah.
So there we are. Stupid. It's stupid. Really.
Very stupid. Well, now it's time for something that's a bit stinky peculiar.
Oh. What's that?
It's weird news.
Oh, okay. It's a bit confused there. It's weird news time. Time for some weird video game news. If you would like to submit some weird video game news to us, you can do so under the relevant social media post that goes out on a Wednesday. However, if you'd like to guarantee a shout out at this point in the podcast, you need to go to patreon.com/team TripleJump, support us at the appropriate tier and become a podcast producer, just like
Chip Thompson's Thumbs.
Gabrielle Philipping.
G-Wag Elias,
Nexus Polaris.
Nicole Hansen.
Blake Thomas,
Marley.
David Cam.
Eric Sue,
Great Giggity.
Michael Pendlebury.
Katie Garrett,
And Big Money Bobby. Vegas man.
Pew pew. Peter, have you got some weird news?
I've got some weird news about a person with grey hair who plays video games. So that shows you.
Wow, don't I feel silly?
Yeah, I mean, you did actually say
Are they on a
not that
committee?
people with grey hair don't play video
Doesn't
games.
matter.
They're not on a committee, but they're almost above committee, or could be.
Oh.
Okay.
Ryan Swartz submitted this via Facebook. I think top fan, actually.
Cool.
Not sure if
Relation?
any relation, though. It's according to thepinknews.com. Just going to accept some cookies there. And it's written by Amelia Hansford. Vice presidential candidate Tim Walz, or Volts, it's Waltz,
Waltz,
isn't it?
yeah.
Shows off his crazy taxi skills during a Twitch stream.
Oh.
Yeah. 60-year-old vice presidential candidate Tim Walz has shown off his impressive crazy taxi skills after playing around on a Twitch live stream. That's just the same sentence, but a bit longer.
Yeah.
Can we
That's
hear
how
it again,
headlines
but in a
work.
paragraph this time?
That was the subheading, so now we're going to have the first paragraph,
Right.
which might be the same
What are you
again.
going to tell us about first? What Crazy Taxi is or what Tim Waltz is?
What?
The
What's Tim
Minnesota
Waltz?
governor, that's what he is.
Tim Waltz.
Not-
Tim Waltz.
Noted his obsession with the 2000 Sega Dreamcast port of the cult classic arcade title.
Crazy Taxi.
Crazy Taxi.
Yes.
While appearing on a Twitch stream with fellow Democrat, New York Representative Alexandria AOC Ocasio-Cortez. Is it Ocasio? I always
Not
just
sure.
it's AOC.
I always just see AOC.
Yeah. On Sunday, the 27th of October. Fresh news. To prove his love, he played around to the joy of the 198,000 viewers
Bloody
tuning
hell.
in. I'm not.
It's not as many as we get, but it's, it's all right.
This is a quote. I'm not. ... I'm terrible. I don't know the controls on Xbox, but I just want to try it just once, Waltz joked before flooring AOC with his skills.
Absolutely decked her.
In awe, she replied, "Dude, you're good." Waltz first noted his love for the 24-year-old Dreamcast title. I'm so glad it says Dreamcast title there. Waltz first noted his love for the 24-year-old Dreamcast title in August, telling the New York Times that he played it on console so much that his wife seized it from him. His appreciation for the lesser-known 6th-generation console has become an inside joke in the gaming community, with one user even putting him in the game.
Oh, that's great.
Rumour has it that Tim Waltz played Crazy Taxi so much that his wife took his Dreamcast away from it, so I decided to put him in the game, modder Edward La Barbera wrote. The mod, titled Crazy Taxi Tim Waltz Edition, includes fully voiced lines from the candidate's speeches and a customised car for him.
Wow.
Wonderful. There's
That's
no
lovely.
screen, there's no picture of it or anything.
No.
But there is a picture of, there's a thumbnail of them both playing,
I
playing
saw the
game
clip.
together.
Amazing.
They had a lovely time, I'm sure. I saw people post I'm sure Republican voters post a still from the stream saying, huh, this is fake, the controller's not even on. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
there was like a community note saying, the light on
light
the back
is
of
on.
controller is on.
It doesn't need to be plugged in anymore.
Clutching at
idiots.
straws.
Yeah.
I have some news by Nintendo Life by Ollie Reynolds. Random. This was submitted by MB and my boyfriend and
That's what it stands for. MB. My boyfriend.
my Ben. It's my Ben. And at cbennett_12 on Twitter. Owners of a Nintendo frying pan are being warned not to use it.
Oh, bloody hell.
The subheading is not panning out.
Oh, it's good.
Owners of a rather fetching Super Mushroom frying pan in Japan are currently being told not to use it by manufacturer Bandai Spirits. This comes from The Gamer via an official announcement provided on the 20th of October 2024, in which owners have been advised that the frying pan has been found to discolor oil when heat is applied. Bandai Namco is currently investigating whether...
Bandai Namco?
Bandai Spirits, sorry.
Bandai Panco.
Sorry, it's Bandai Spirits. But I just...
Bandai
my brain...
Panco.
Shut
so
up.
annoying. Is currently investigating whether the discoloration is just that, a discoloration, or an indication of something potentially more sinister and harmful to users. Sales have been suspended for the time being while an investigation takes place, and should the firm discover anything untoward about the product, it's likely a recall will appear. The pan was reportedly sold in conjunction with Super Mario Party Jamboree's release, and like many cool Nintendo products, is limited to Japan. It stands to reason then that if a recall were to take place, there probably isn't an overwhelming amount of these out in the wild anyway. With that in mind, we're not overly disappointed that the Super Mushroom frying pan hasn't made it to the West. We'd love to see more quirky Nintendo products make their way over to our shores, but in this case, we're happy to sit this one out and stick to our Alamo. So yeah, they don't know if the oil's being discoloured because there's something weird about the pan or if it's just heating the oil. But I would say whenever I've heated some oil in a pan, it doesn't just discolour because the pan is...
Yeah. We're not sure if this is normal discoloration or bad discoloration.
Yeah, but that's what it looks like. You can make like a little mushroom pancake if you want
weird.
to.
How do things like that happen? Because surely a frying pan is a frying pan, and you just go to a frying pan manufacturer and say, make a mushroom one.
Well,
why is it that like they've used a brand new alloy that's never been used for a pan before?
Something weird in the mold, maybe, to make it into mushroom shape. Who knows?
Fun though.
Very fun.
Can't wait to find out what Bandai Namco discover.
How many people are going to die because of this, do you think?
Yeah.
Hopefully none.
My news is from Aaron Pristelski at Aaron Pristelski on Twitter. And this is an article
full name handle
from the Express Tribune.
Wow.
We're doing a follow-up news now on presidential stuff.
Right.
America is a crazy country.
Kamala Harris launches custom Fortnite map as part of campaign outreach to younger voters. How do you do, fellow kids?
Wow. I want to know how we can get them to Pokemon go to their polls. Remember that?
But that didn't work last
No,
time.
that was Hillary.
We need them to Fortnite. I don't know. There's got to be something in there. Dance.
Vote for tonight the Democrats. Vote for
Tonight the Democrats.
Okay,
yeah,
that could. Yeah, sure.
We can go for that one.
In an unconventional move to engage younger voters, US Vice President and presidential candidate Kamala Harris has released a custom Fortnite map titled Freedom Town, USA. This campaign feature, announced on October the 28th, showcases Harris's attempt to connect with the gaming community as she urges young people to register and participate in the upcoming election.
Does she know that Fortnite gamers are like 14?
Can't vote.
Can't vote.
But they'll vote next time, maybe. The
There
map's
won't be
code,
next time.
which you should all, we all need to...
What
does that mean?
The Trump administration is saying.
There
There won't be another
next
vote.
vote.
Trump 2024, there
last
won't
one.
be a next time.
Yeah.
I hope you've all got your pens out because you're going to want to make a note of this
I'm
map
gonna
code,
remember
all right? 7331 5 feet 5 feet 5 fum.
I smell the
Do
blood.
da do da. All right,
Yeah.
everyone get that? Was shared through her campaign's social media with the message, "It's time to start a new American chapter. Squad up, go vote."
Squad up. That's what they say in Fort.
Go vote with your squad.
Awful.
Squad up, bossaroos.
You mustn't do this. The Freedom Town map is Harris's latest outreach strategy in a presidential race marked by innovative digital engagement. The map allows players to explore an interactive virtual space, mirroring a vision of Harris's campaign themes and priorities. You can go to a hospital and get free healthcare, maybe.
Doubt it.
Yeah.
The Vice President of the United States promoting a Fortnite map is dope ASF, and I'm here for it, commented one supporter on YouTube, while another remarked, "We got Kamala Harris Fortnite map before GTA 6, alluding to the enthusiasm and surprise among fans."
It's ironic, really, because it kind of suits the Republican campaign a lot better. You could build a wall, you can shoot your guns.
Yeah.
and those are the two main.
That's main
things.
Republican things. Yeah.
The map release has stirred discussion on social media with both praise and debate around Harris's choice of platforming. Platforming is a different game she's going to release. You can laugh all you want, but this is how you reach young people. It's not. Noted one commenter, reflecting a sentiment shared by those who see the move as a legitimate campaign outreach method to young voters who may not typically engage with political content. While many campaigns
Because they're 14.
have embraced social media platforms, Harris's use of Fortnite marks a notable shift towards gaming as a space for political messaging. Her campaign's unique approach has raised questions about the future of digital campaign strategies and how they might reshape voter engagement moving forward. Are there comments? There's no comments.
The United Kingdom. And you're like, oh, Keir Starmer's got a Fortnite map. And you just go to a pub and Keir Starmer's there doing his like, we need to change the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
We need the
Like-
sausages. Like
Boris Johnson Roblox.
Yeah, Keir Starmer has like a little Minecraft map, and you log in, and someone's griefed it and burned it down.
Ed Miliband eating a pork chop.
We'd have day one headlines, which would be someone has burned down Keir Starmer's
Yeah.
Minecraft village.
They built the Tower of London and somebody blew it up.
Someone's blown it up with TNT.
Yeah.
Obviously, vote for Kamala Harris, but that's
Yeah.
a little bit cringe. IMO. It's also they're not the first
IMO.
people to do this either. I
No.
believe that even predating the famous one, Obama had campaign posters in Burnout Paradise, I think, and I believe there was another one before that, even maybe relating to Crazy Taxi. Citation needed. Can't remember off the top of my
No,
head,
I don't
but
know.
they've been doing this for a while.
America is a crazy country.
It's great. I
Also,
love
I'd
it.
like to apologize to Americans because I said last week that they didn't say moldy. Apparently, they do say moldy. But the video I saw, she said molded, and then
Molded.
everyone in the
It's
comments were
molded.
going, crazy that it's molded. And I was like, maybe they just don't say moldy.
They
Like,
do spell it different, as in we put a U in, like
Yeah.
we do with most things.
yeah. But I
um,
apologize to all the Americans who were very upset that I didn't think that they said moldy.
Ashton.
Sorry,
we
America.
we've spoken a lot about the Americans today. We
I
need to
pledge
apologize.
allegiance to the flag. Please forgive me.
We love you, America.
Yeah.
Make the right
Make
choice.
the
There
right
won't be another
choice.
one.
There won't be another one.
We just don't love your lunch-based products at the moment. They're not so
No.
good. They're molded.
Molded.
Flipping gone. That's a YouTuber thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Kids.
That's
they
where
love
it came,
that.
that's where we were talking about it last time.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
My brain just turned off then.
Oh,
for a
okay.
while. I was briefly mentally out of the room. It's time for the big discussion.
Yes.
It's big discussion time. Time for the big video game discussion. This week it comes courtesy of Chris McVeigh, who says, "Hi, Bab."
Hi.
Hello.
The Concord debacle looks to have well and truly come to an end now, with the closure of Firewalk Studios being confirmed this week. In the same blog post, it was also confirmed that Neon Koi will be shutting down, putting an end to the mobile live service game they were making. If you're on the dev team for Marathon and Fair Game $, how much are you sweating right now? Firewalk's farewell message noted the challenge of releasing a game like theirs in a consolidated market. Do you think that's a message that any other in-development multiplayer games at PlayStation need to take on board? Is it even possible for them to do that? How ruthless will Sony be in the future if this $400 million figure for Concord's losses is true? I turn now to Tom Warren at The Verge.
Turn. Where?
Tom?
Tom?
He's in the corner.
Sorry. Thank you, Tom.
Oh, there we go.
He's handed me
thanks,
my
Hand
notes.
me the
Tom.
notes. Thanks, Tom.
Sony is closing Firewalk Studios, the studio behind its PlayStation Concord game that it took offline last month after a disastrous launch. In a message to PlayStation staff, Herman Holst, CEO of the PlayStation Studio Business Group, says Firewalk Studios will close alongside Neon Koi, a mobile game studio. The shutdowns will affect about 210 jobs, Bloomberg reports. We've spent considerable time these past few months exploring all our options, says Holst. After much thought, we have determined the best path forward is to permanently sunset the game and close the studio. I want to thank all of Firewalk for their craftsmanship, creative spirit, and dedication. Holst says Concord didn't hit Sony's targets. Yeah,
No.
you turned it off.
That's crazy.
It didn't hit the target
I mean,
of over $400 million.
in 2 weeks.
It would never have done that, but the fact they turned it off and then he said, I didn't hit the target.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's weird,
No
isn't
one's
it?
been
You
playing
didn't
it
give
for
it a
weeks.
chance.
Someone cut it at the knees and it didn't hit the targets. And that the PlayStation maker will take the lessons learned from Concord and continue to advance our live service capabilities to deliver future growth in this area.
You're not learning anything.
Concord debuted on August the 23rd on both PS5 and PC, but Sony took the game offline on September the 6th after poor sales of the game. Estimates have put sales at under 25,000 copies, and Concord only managed to hit an all-time peak of just 697 players on Steam, lower than the launch peak of The Lord of the Rings Gollum.
Oh, that's even less than I thought it was 700 and something.
It's gone down.
Oh no.
It was like around 700 for
Sony's Neon Koi mobile game development studio is also shutting down, despite Holst saying mobile remains a priority growth area. Sony originally acquired the German-Finnish studio when it was known as Savage Game Studios in 2022, and the team was working on an unannounced AAA mobile live service game. With this refocused approach, hang on, my brain is not letting the words come out of my mouth. With this refocused approach, Neon Koi will close and its mobile action game will not be moving forward, says Holst. Both decisions were given serious thought and ultimately we feel they are the right ones to strengthen the organization. Some of the impacted developers may find roles within Sony's other studios, but the rest will join the thousands in the games industry that have been laid off over the past couple of years. So obviously very sad that people have lost their jobs. Our thoughts are with them. Hopefully they can all land on their feet. This is exactly what we expected to happen, though. There was surely no path back for Concord.
This is obviously the main story you two talked about in the news video you did. But just to add my two penneth, as I remember it, when they took the game down, there was some kind of language where it was like, to see where we go forward.
to reevaluate.
It implied that they were implying publicly that maybe we might come back when we've improved things. That was never going to happen, surely. And I think they almost certainly knew that internally, and maybe they just decided that PR-wise, the best way to do things might be, rather than just announce, we're taking the game down permanently and we're going to close the studio, to show a period of time where they were maybe thinking on things. I don't know, perhaps...
It's so weird, though, because we mentioned this very briefly in the news video we did earlier in the week, but they were making changes and tweaks and doing updates on Steam, which is I mean, I know the staff needed to be doing something, but it's very odd, isn't it?
So maybe
how in the dark they were kept.
Yeah, well, either they were just giving them busy work, or maybe there genuinely was a glimmer there somewhere where some of the execs were thinking that we might be able to turn this around. But I'd like to think that they're not that naive and that they perhaps...
The issue with Concord, it wasn't going to take tweaks. It was going to take an entire redo of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
to answer the question, though, there have, of course, been so many project cancellations, studio closures, and layoffs in the past couple of years at this point. And I certainly don't want to give my answer in the tone of, cancel those multiplayer games, even though it's not really the kind of thing that we're wanting from Sony. But, of course, if they did cancel those projects, that would, of course, spell very bad news for the people involved. So it's not something to celebrate. Talking so objectively and coldly without thinking about the people involved, I do think that as a market strategy, Sony would do well to not focus on multiplayer games going forward. And I think they've hopefully had that lesson learnt. Whether that's the case, I don't know. I still feel like they're going to go forward and think, okay, we still want to do live service and large multiplayer games, but we just need to work out how to do it. All that being said, I wouldn't, with great joy, call for the cancellation of these projects that, people are working hard on. I just don't think it's necessarily the right strategy.
Mm-hmm.
It's so difficult when you look at Sony, because it feels like they are on a different planet from everyone else in the world. Like you say, I don't want these other games to fail. I would love to see these do well and see that the devs keep their jobs and the studios continue to be fruitful. However, I don't really know what it would take for Sony to reevaluate their output. Like, it feels like everything that they've done, apart from Astrobot, God save the king, that, like, it's all kind of been lackluster at best. Like, we've had this monumental failure, like, astronomically bad, would be in the history books if anyone cared about video games type situation.
Yeah.
But like, it doesn't feel like they learn anything. We've had all of the reboots and remasters of the games that people don't really want them, like no new games coming out that are really that exciting from them. We've not got any updates on anything like Wolverine, apart from the guys not doing that anymore. Like we haven't had any major updates on any Sony products apart from ones that have failed, which I think is a crazy thing to watch from the outside as they put blog post after blog post up about something that's gone wrong or something that nobody wants. And it just feels like an insane look from Sony. And Herman Hulst is the face of it and has had like a billion question marks over his head from everyone about what he is doing and what he is bringing to the table. You can't release a live service game nowadays. They don't work. It's so rare that they work. It's such a risk to put all this money into something like Concord because it's such a an already saturated market. You're fighting a losing battle to get your game to be the one thing that someone picks up. Like everything else they have to put away everything else to make that game their one game. And unfortunately nowadays it's just not going to happen because people are so stuck in the thing that they like the most. And obviously, like, I'm not saying it's impossible, but like Helldivers 2 had a really amazing launch and has since no one's really talking about it. And I know people don't really talk about Overwatch 2 and they don't really talk about Apex Legends as like, you know, prevalently as they did when it first came out. But Apex Legends, Valorant, and like Legends, Valorant and others, they have such massive communities and such like active conversations happening about them in regard to like competitive games, whereas Sony haven't got really anything in that market, which is what they're trying to do, but it's just not working. And I wonder what it will take for them to try something else and not focus on this seemingly dying horse that they keep on kicking.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. You're right in that there are a lot of questions that Herman Hulst needs to answer. I still want to. I desperately want to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's. You know, we spoke with some enthusiasm when he was announced as like the co-CEO because he's been there in the trenches making games. He's been through all that. He knows what people want out of PlayStation. So to an extent,
and to be fair, he did inherit decisions that were already made.
Yeah, to be fair to him, he did inherit something of a bit of a poisoned chalice from Big Jim's various decisions that he put in place. And we've said before as well that it takes a long time to turn a ship this big around if it's already on a set course. However, he was instrumental in signing Firewalk or purchasing them. He was instrumental in making Concord an exclusive and shepherding that through. Lots of reporting saying, corroborating that was like his baby. He was so enthusiastic about it. He had high hopes for it. And he has absolutely flipped the bed on this one. Well and truly. It's everywhere. It's a mess and it's embarrassing. So what will it take for them to change tack? Because if I were a developer on Marathon or Fair Game $, I would be very worried. I wouldn't be surprised if they did make it to some sort of beta or even full release, but equally, I would be just as unsurprised to hear that those games are being shelved.
Yeah.
I would not be shocked at all. I don't understand why they're continuing. Well, I do understand why they're continuing this push into live service and mobile stuff. It's because there must always be infinite growth. You can never be stable. There must always be more money. If you make a certain amount of money last year, you can't make slightly less this year, but that's still good because it was better than the year before. It must always be going up, always. And that's why they chase these stupid trends. I don't know what turning point there's going to be before they realize that, well, instead of getting infinite money from a live service game, maybe we do just need to fully embrace the approach that took us to the dance in the first place, which is high quality, single player, AAA video games. And I know that the budgets for those are insane and they take longer and longer to make, but there is a middle ground. We talk about it all the time with the Insomniac approach to the Miles Morales or the Ratchet and Clank game. They're not hundreds of hours long. They're not even dozens of hours long, but they're brilliant, high-quality experiences that these guys can seemingly turn around in a couple of years and have multiple studios working on multiple things. The huge games are great, but we don't need them every time. And there has to be a better way than this. And this is just such a colossal flip-up that could have been avoided so easily.
Well, you both said, what will it take for them to hopefully learn that lesson? From our point of view, anyway, that's where we want them to go. I'm sure there are other people who are saying, I want more big multiplayer games. But if an unprecedented failure in gaming, a $400 million or a $399 million loss is not the lesson for them, and they still don't learn it, then I don't see when or if that's going to happen.
Yeah.
If they continue now on this course of, well, we'll just keep trying multiplayer, then that is almost, it feels like a done deal that they'll do it forever then. Because if this isn't enough, nothing ever will be.
It's not like the straw that broke the camel's back. It's like, if this isn't the 400 million ton boulder that broke the camel's back, then I don't know what will be.
Ridiculous, predictable, but still very sad at the same time. So again, hope those affected employees manage to find work elsewhere quickly. But there we are. Let us know what you think of everything that we've spoken about this week. All sorts, again, to go over very quickly. This is the final podcast on the main channel. You need to go to triplejump.mp/podcast or search TripleJump Pods to find the new channel, because from next week, that's where the video version of this podcast will be going. We're also taking a week-long break from posting content. Don't be alarmed. We'll still be streaming. Worst Games Ever, all the Patreon stuff, will still be going out on Patreon. And Worst Games Ever is not being delayed for, any extended period of time. It'll just release the following week, and then you'll get another one the week after that, because that's how the schedule is going to fall back into place again. So you'll technically get them 2 weeks in a row. We're going to be on CBBC next Saturday, the 7th of November at 9 a.m. Please tune in and watch us, and make sure you claim your rewards for SMTJ Live, which is going to be perhaps not quite as production value heavy.
What are you talking about?
Saturday morning
what are you
mashup.
talking about?
Patreon.com/Team Triple Jump. Go there and claim your rewards and get involved in the show. Tat Appeal still open as well. Everything coming to a close towards the end of November. So make sure you get stuck in while you still can. Peter, where else can people find us?
You can find us at youtube.com/Team Triple Jump and twitch.tv/Team Triple Jump. Of course, YouTube is the home of videos, and most of our streams happen on Twitch, but occasionally on YouTube as well on special occasions. And if you've got Amazon Prime, amongst that bundle of treats is a Twitch sub that you can redeem against us at no extra cost on top of what you're already paying, and you get all the benefits of being a Twitch subscriber.
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, on all of which we are at Team Triple Jump. Make sure you're following there for all kinds of updates and information about what we are up to. And patreon.com/Team Triple Jump if you'd like to support us.
TripleJ.mup, that's our website. There you can find links to everything that we do. And why not leave a 5-star review on your platform of choice? It helps something to do with Al Gore's rhythms, and we'd really appreciate it. We're going to give that Al a real kick up his backside. Just enough time to talk about this week's sponsor again, please.
Which, as well as the new Triple Jump Pods channel, is the charming, funny, heartwarming Alan Wake sitcom DLC. Alan Wake 2, The Wake House.
The Wake House. Oh, okay. Too many wakes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we will see you next time on the podcast channel. Bye.